I have here a horseshoe magnet. That horseshoe magnet we've never seen before. But it has a north pole and a south pole. And we know that magnetic field lines come out of a north and into a south. So I think it's not a stretch to say that the magnetic field lines are going to point towards that open door. Now, I have here a power supply. It acts like a battery. And when I close this switch, current is going to come out of this positive lead, conventional current, towards you. Okay? So, towards you. That's what that dot represents. It's an arrowhead coming towards you. Now, the question is, what direction will the magnetic force point? Well, reach in the direction of the motion, turn your wrist so that it can swing in the direction of the B field towards the open door, and that's going to be up. Look at that, it jumps. That is amazing. Now, if I turn it the other way so that the current's going away from you, it tries to go down, but it can't. Okay? Now, think of that. Just think of that. What could you do with a jumping wire? A Mexican jumping bean, you could start your whole circus. What could you do, pray tell, with a jumping wire? And the answer is everything. Anything in your house with an electric motor is operated by a jumping wire, by magnetic forces acting on current going through a wire. The jumping wire is the key to everything that has an electric motor in it. But that's not the exciting part. What's so much more important than that is that the jumping wire is the key to your stereo. Yes. What I've got here is a stereo hooked up to a stereo speaker. Now you'll say, well, Greg, that's not a stereo speaker. That is a Diet Pepsi cup. Yes, it is. Don't try this with a Diet Coke cup. It will not work. What we've got here is just a little coil of wire that's been glued onto the back of this cup. And we've hooked that wire to the output, the speaker output of the stereo. Now we've put a little bulb in series with the cup, just so that we can visually see when there is current going through the wire. So I'm going to turn on this stereo, and you see we've got ourselves a station. Okay, a fairly strong station. Now, whenever I have current going through that loop in the back here, that current would be pushed by a magnetic field. Now I've got a very strong bar magnet, a neodymium bar magnet here. I'm going to put that near the coil. You listen carefully. I did not know that was going to be an advertisement. I am not getting a cutback, a kickback. Okay, let's find something else. Music, we want music. Not country and western, we want music. You see how simple this is? Let me show you a diagram. Another use for a Pepsi cup. Some guy's very proud of his collection. Here's a typical speaker. You have a permanent magnet. In this case, it's one that has a north pole in the center and the south pole that rings it. Now, since field lines go from north to south, they would be pointing radially outward. So these red lines represent the magnetic field going from north to south, from north to south. And they would be radially out. Now if I send current through this coil, and that's what this represents, that's into the page and out of the page, this current is going to be pushed that way. That's going to push the diaphragm of the stereo speaker, and that's going to create a compression region that's going to cross the room and hit your eardrum. Now, I would ask you not to tell my wife that we can actually make a stereo speaker out of a Pepsi cup. The reason is, years ago, my youngest son and his friend decided that they never got any dates. We had an unfinished basement, and they figured if they were to finish that basement and put a really neat theater room in there, they could maybe get dates. If we build it, they will come. and so we built a really nice theater room, and just speakers everywhere. It's just very expensive speakers. And if my wife knew that I could have done it all with Pepsi cups, I'm in trouble. I came home from work one day and found cars lined up on both sides of the street. I went downstairs, it was filled with teenage boys. It was the morning that Halo was released at midnight, and they were just blowing up everything. The crazy thing was, I didn't know any of them. And my son wasn't there. It was kids from the high school. So,